And Barbara happens to be the mother of one of my investigators with my group, P.P.R.S. Him and his wife have been part of our team, and Eric Johnson and Pamela Johnston are my team investigators, and Eric's mother has been struggling with health issues for a while, and I have on and off over the last 6 months to a year. She's had a lot of different things happen, and we've put out prayer requests for her, and each and every time that we put one out, it was another blessing from God. They heard the message was heard, and she was able to come home, or she got better and things. But as time's been going on, some of the things that I was picking up was, that her health was failing. And although all these blessings that were being bestowed on Barbara and able for her to come home and things like that was now going to be coming to an end. And me, myself, my mother's still alive, but I've lost, my grandmother, who was like my mother growing up. And no matter how much you know, no matter how much you understand about things, it is just never easy to lose somebody you love. Now, the good thing I have to say is, boy, I'll tell you, I have some absolutely amazing people that surround me and that are on my team. Eric is such a strong man, so strong. I so look up to him. He goes through some of the things people, and especially him, always say how much they look up to me, and on my side it's completely the reverse. I don't understand sometimes why people so look up to me. I'm just, a normal everyday person like everybody else, other than I've got some abilities I use, and I really do my best to try to help other people, out. But I'm only doing what we're supposed to do. It doesn't make me somebody fantastic or amazing. And I see this strength in other people, which, gives me strength as well. And, Eric is very, very strong. He is one of these people that he is right there for you no matter, what you need. And his beautiful, beautiful wife, Pamela, I'm telling you, is definitely his soulmate. You see the two of them together, you see the love, and it's just absolutely amazing. So, as I said, as hard as it is to lose somebody we love, the positive side, and I always try to focus on the positive things, is that she now is no longer in pain or suffering. She's had a long battle, and, quite a fighter, quite a warrior. But it was finally time for her to go and join, her family on the other side. So with that being said, tonight's show is dedicated to Barbara Scott. I know that she had a peaceful and happy transition over to the other side. I had a talk with Eric the other day, and that's when I told him he really needed to prepare. I thought that it was going to be happening soon, but that I was seeing, you would not believe how many spirits, angels, and stuff that were there, family members that were there waiting so patiently for her to be ready to cross over, so that they would be right there. And the main thing that the spirits kept telling me to relay to Eric was that they were there and they were going to make sure that her transition went smoothly. So not all people, have that. Sometimes people will refuse to cross over because they have unfinished business. The family's grieving so much that they don't want to leave. And then there's others that, they may think it's their time to go, but believe me, if it's not, you're coming back. And that brings us to the topic of the show tonight. I decided out of the blue, I've been talking about it for a while, to do a show on the topic of near-death experiences. It never fails to amaze me how many people are amazed and intrigued by near-death experiences, and my story as well. I've spoke on it on many interviews, radio shows, television, you name it. It's something, when you go through it, it is definitely something that we'll never forget. It is something that is really world shaking. And I'm sure that if anybody out there, and I know that there are many people as well that are listening that have gone through near-death experiences, and tonight we are inviting anybody who is interested in calling and talking about their near-death experiences tonight are more than welcome. Our phone number, calling number is area code 607-349-0410. And tonight, my guest is Sharon Goodman, and she actually is a member, a group member of P.P.R.S. She's not one of the Investigator members, but we have a group with about 3,000 members in it worldwide, and they come together, share experiences, knowledge, help each other. We network. I have to say, we were talking about near-death experiences. Somebody else, another member, had put up a question, and that's kind of how this got started. And thought, yes, people have some amazing stories and experiences to share with the world, and everybody knows those are the kind of guests I like. Sharon was a little nervous and apprehensive because this is her, first time coming out and speaking on a radio show like mine to tell her story. But we definitely want to thank her for, even taking the time and having the strength and courage to come out and tell her story, because so many people, go through these things and they're so worried about being judged and not believed, things like that, that it keeps them from not talking about these experiences, trying to act like they don't exist, things like that, because of all the critiquing and drama that happens when people come out and try to share these stories. So everything I would absolutely love to, have people's personal stories, that they're brave enough to come forward and talk about. It helps so many people. But so let me tell you just a little bit about Sharon. Sharon Merriman, and she says, I had 2 near-death experiences, one at age 13 by drowning in a pool, the other one in 2005 by being hit by lightning. One of the many gifts that I received upon returning to this earth was the gift of seeing, hearing, and smelling spirits. The biggest thing I learned is death is nothing more than walking through another doorway into your home. Wow. Sharon, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes? Thank you, first of all, so much for coming on the show tonight and, agreeing to share your story with everybody. It's, just a little bit that I know is very, very intriguing. And it is very intriguing as well that you had, 2 different near-death experiences, and one had to do with water. I actually have had 2 near-death experiences. My first one was as a young teenager, probably 4 of my preteens, I would think, or about, I'm thinking probably 11, 12. Anyway, we were part of the Salvation Army Church. Everybody knows I grew up Catholic, things like that. My mom got upset, pulled us out of the Catholic Church because she had been excommunicated or remarrying somebody who had already been married before, which, of course, was a big no-no in the Catholic Church. And so she put us in the Salvation Army, which they had helped us a lot with different, things. And so it was one of the outings that we were going on. And we went to the beach, the Stinson Beach out here in California. I don't know how many people know, of course, Southern California has got these beautiful beaches, things like that, even Northern California as well. But the ones in Northern California, the rip tides are really, really rough, and they are full of sharks. But anyway, we were out there for the day to hang out at the beach, do a picnic. We were told, not to go, we couldn't go swimming, but we could go and wade in the water. We just had to stay near the shoreline and stay together with somebody. And the adults had parked the van. Everybody was running down to the water to take stuff down there, and we were taking pictures. So me, a couple other people were taking pictures, and two of the other girls went to go grab their cameras, things like that. And so I was still standing there waiting for them. And all of a sudden I started hearing one of the adults up at the van, yelling and waving their hands. And so I'm thinking that, they're waving to me, so I'm waving back, and, they're like waving their hands, and I'm looking at them like, what the heck? And right about that time, they're pointing, I turn around to look, and just at that time, I get taken out by a wave. And it literally took me out, took the feet from underneath me, and just as quick as a blink of the eye, I was pulled under. I was doing somersaults and couldn't get, up to the top. I was, literally trying to fight, and I was running out of, air. Next thing I know is I see this ball of light. And that's what I say, because I couldn't, per se, see a person or anything like that. But there was this ball of light. And the next thing I know, this whole ball of light engulfed around me. And I hear in my mind, it's not like I heard, through my hearing, but telepathically, I hear this person tell me that I need to relax, that they're here to help me. I'll be okay. And right at that moment, I did just that. I just relaxed, and before I knew it, I popped up. Somebody grabbed me out of the water. They pulled me, and I started, doing the CPR, and, popped up some water. I was okay. And that was my first experience. And so I want to, again, so many people, when we share our stories, we feel very alone that, how many people have actually gone through what we've gone through or can understand. And we're starting to realize that there's a whole lot of people out there that do understand, have had similar experiences. So when you saw the post in the P.P.R.S. Group page, what was your thought when you realized that there were other people besides you that were sharing their stories as well?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, well, I was happy that there were other people out there that were talking about it. It made me feel not so shy about it. I didn't feel like I felt like there was I didn't have to be afraid anymore.
Right. And so you obviously then went through that, kind of feelings of, do you talk about it? Do you not talk about it? I mean, when you have spoke about it, has it been something where you haven't got very positive feedback from people around you before, like, you got into a group like ours? Or when you would talk about it, did people kind of embrace it and accept it, or did you just really not talk about it? Like, where were you at in all of that?
In the past, I didn't. I was not accepted.
Okay.
It's just been here recently that I have been accepted. There was a time in the past when people around me told me I was crazy. They didn't understand that there was such a thing as a near-death experience. They did not realize that it was a spiritual experience that I was going through. People thought that I was mentally ill, or that there was something really bad wrong with me. And after my first near-death experience, I got really quiet. I didn't even know myself what in the world. I was just a little girl. I didn't know how in the world was I supposed to even tell my parents what happened. I didn't know what in the world was going on. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to tell anybody. But then when it happened as an adult, it was like, oh my goodness, because it was really, really big. The second one was really, really big.
Let's talk about your first experience. Now, how old were you when you had your first near-death experience?
I was 13.
13. Okay. Wow. So that's right about that age. Now, let's talk about that. What exactly happened?
I went to the YWCA to take swimming lessons, and the teacher wanted me to do a dive where you put your hands up over your head and you dive in the 10-foot part of the pool, like head first. I watched all the other kids doing it, and I was the last one to do it, but I just didn't feel right about it. And I told him that I couldn't do it. I just had this really bad feeling about it. And he told me, you're either going to do this dive or I'm going to throw you in. And I just couldn't do it. And so the next thing I know, he shoved me into the water. And I started fighting. I mean, he threw me in, and I started fighting the water. And I was into the water. The only thing that I remember the water moving, and there was this, it looked like a light bulb. It was really bright, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and it was coming towards me, and I was laying there on the bottom, but I could hear people screaming, and I could see my mom. She was up in the balcony, and it was weird. I couldn't wrap my head around it, but I could see her face, like it was right in front of me, and I could see the horror on her face, and I could hear the lady lifeguard, where she was on the other end of the pool with the little teeny kids, and she was screaming at my teacher, and I could still remember his name. I'm not going to say it, but I can hear her screaming at him to jump in and get me, but he was like frozen. He couldn't move. And all this time I'm laying on the bottom of the pool, but I didn't feel any pain. I didn't feel any fear. I didn't feel anything. I was just like cocooned with this light, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and it was really warm, and I just felt so comfortable and so just I don't know, like I was wrapped in this warm blanket, and the light just kept getting bigger and bigger as it kept coming towards me. I don't know if I was moving towards it or it was moving towards me. I couldn't tell. And just as that light was getting ready to touch me, somebody jumped in and got me, and I heard this, what sounded like a metal door slam, and I felt this horrible pain, and I started coughing up water and throwing up water, and the pain was unbelievable, and the light was gone, and the next thing I know, I was on the side of the pool and people were working on me, and that was it.
Now, with that near-death experience, did you experience like any out-of-body type experiences where you could see them working on you or anything like that?
The only out-of-body thing that I remember was being able to see everything. I could see everybody outside of the pool. Here I am laying on the bottom of the pool, and I could see the people, the lifeguard, the woman lifeguard on the side of the pool with the little kids. I could see my mom, who was in the balcony. She was up in the balcony above the pool where all the mothers were sitting. I could see my teacher, who stood frozen on the side of the pool where all my other classmates were. The guy that came in and got me, he was the lifeguard that was taking care of the class that was behind me. He was from the other side of the pool on the opposite end. But all of these things were going on while I'm laying at the bottom of the pool, and this light was coming towards me. And by that time, my lungs were all filled up with water, and I'm cocooned in this light, and I'm not struggling anymore. I don't feel any pain, but I'm still watching all this other stuff going on around the pool, and I don't know how that's possible, when you're under 10 feet of water. But it was very clear, all of this stuff going on.
Interesting. Well, I mean, no, a lot of times that, is the way it is. Now, for me, for my first near-death experience that I explained, I did not get any of that. Other than, the light, that's really all that I got, and just felt that they were there to assist me and help me. The second near-death experience I had, which is, the most prevalent, that really changed my life, that one I actually did. I had out-of-body experience. I could see them working on me for a short amount of time, and then, boom, it took me to the rest of it. So many people have heard, on my show have heard that story. So although there are many people that haven't and do want to hear the story, I will tell it, but I want to get, your story out as well. And so that one is when you're young, and then when comes your next one. And first of all, after your first one, did you experience any kind of abilities, or did you realize, or do you realize now that back then you had some abilities as well?
Well, I didn't know then if I did or not. I think I did. I used to see angels, and I used to be able to tell if someone was going to pass on or not. And usually it was by smell. I could smell like carnations and carrots. I mean, my room would smell like carnations and carrots. I guess that's what nursing homes, but funeral homes would smell like to me, I guess, when I was looking crazy.
Well, that's interesting because I actually know somebody who I mentor, and one of the first things that he was noticing when he started becoming aware of his abilities was he could also smell things when he's around people, and would either, after time, you know, kind of differentiating what these smells meant and what would happen afterwards, he would know, like, if a person was very ill or suffering from an illness, or if they were about to die. And, you know, he would say that there are, you know, different kinds of smells that you get, but, you know, you kind of learn through, I guess, happening over and over, you know, what one means or what one doesn't mean. And since all of us, you know, are born with abilities, you know, my biggest pet peeve is people, you know, coming forward and saying, oh, you know, I was chosen by God, I'm this gifted, special person because I've got psychic abilities. You know, it's so far from the truth. You know, we are all chosen, we're all blessed, we all have psychic abilities. Now, how strong they are, or if we are in tune with them and understand them or not, like, those are all, you know, different things. But, you know, everybody does have abilities, and usually if you don't come from, like, a background or a family where it's, they really kind of work with you and educate you and all this stuff, normally by the time the children will enter into kindergarten, by that time it's usually kind of shut down, the abilities. But you, depending on some of the things that go on, many people end up having these abilities reactivated. Through research, we have found that many people who end up with abilities to be able to see, smell, hear, and communicate with spirits will have that after, you know, kind of activate after a near-death experience. Or if they already had abilities that they were already kind of acknowledging and they knew that were happening, just really maybe didn't understand why they had them. A lot of those people, their abilities, once having a near-death experience, they would come back from either having and having the abilities stronger, or they would have new abilities that had added on. So for your second one, you know, let's talk about that story, because in itself, that's a kind of, wow, a story, because your second near experience, you were actually hit by lightning, correct?
Yes, I was.
Well, definitely not a laughing matter, but the thing is before we went on air, found out that it's not that you just got struck once by lightning, but you've been struck by lightning multiple times, right?
Yes. Twice by ball lightning and twice by the bolt.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a wow experience, I'm telling you.
Absolutely, and that's, again, this is something that not everybody can say they've experienced. Strangely enough, you are the third person, but second person that I know that has been struck by lightning, you know, to a very extreme, you know, degree, and after that started having all kinds of interesting stuff start happening. So let's, you know, talk about that a little bit, and where that started. Like the first incident, let's go to that point. You know, how old were you? What were the circumstances? Like, what were you doing that day before it happened, etc.?
Well, the one that, it was 2005, and I was sitting outside on the back steps, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and my husband at the time had just gotten home from work, and he was an electrician at one of the plants in the area, and it had just started to rain, and then when he got home, I asked him if it was okay for me to be on the phone with one of the cordless phones, and he told me that it should be okay. So there was a little, I don't know what you call it, like a little roof-like thing over top of where I was sitting so I wasn't getting wet. And so when he had gone into the house, I continued talking, and then it was about 5 minutes later, I heard this loud crack, and I saw the lightning bolt come down, and it hit my right arm, and I felt this pain go through my body, and it knocked me to the ground, and it left those tar marks on the concrete steps where my feet and where my rear end were, and it traveled underneath the house, and there was a transformer right in front of the house, and it blew the transformer out. And so our whole neighborhood was without power for about 4 hours. And I remembered feeling like I was in shock, and I felt really weird. It was really strange and disoriented and really disconnected. I was shaky and sweaty. And then I remember I was on the ground, and it was like my spirit just lifted up out of my body, and I kind of floated into the house, and I looked around, but everything in the house looked really strange. Nothing looked like my stuff, you know. Everything had a burnt yellow color to it. The air even had a burnt color to it. And I noticed that the furniture in the house wasn't my furniture. And I looked at my lace curtains, and the curtains on the windows, they weren't my curtains. And I started to feel scared and frightened, and there wasn't anybody in the house. And my husband wasn't there, my kids weren't there, and I remembered that there wasn't any power. Everything was dark in the house. And but what I heard was this old-time radio program playing. It's kind of like what you would hear in the Waltons. And I remember kind of walking, but it was kind of like floating through the room, looking for whatever this was making the sound, but I couldn't find anything. And this only lasted for like a couple minutes, and then the time, there wasn't any time, you know, everything seemed to, was moving like in very slow motion. And then the next thing I know, I found myself sort of, I don't know what the word is, almost flying through these beautiful pink and gold clouds. I've never seen anything so beautiful. And I had this deep sense of peace and this total, complete love. And I've never felt this love before, except in that light, when I was in that light when I was a little girl. But it was huge, just huge. It was bigger than big. You know, it was like in every pore of my body, like my body was open, every pore of my body was open, and I was soaking in all this love. And I didn't really know what was happening, except that I was moving through these big, beautiful, gorgeous pink and gold clouds. And then, but I wasn't moving up. I was sort of moving laterally. And, but I could feel this big presence. There was a huge presence. And it was just pure love, a big, beautiful, loving presence. And then the next thing I know, there was these two men appeared. And they got one on either side of me, and they were in their, like, I don't know, early 20s or 30s, early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and they had blonde, curly hair and blue eyes, and they wore what looked like cream-colored clothing, and they had this brilliant glow around them. Actually, they kind of looked like they were sun-kissed, like they'd spent the day out on the beach. And the linen cloth that they were wearing, I don't know why it stood out to me, but it did, and it was a very detailed, tightly woven cloth, a very soft cloth, and I don't know why that was important, but it was. But I realized, at first I thought they were angels, but then I realized who they were, and they were my younger brothers who had died as babies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really neat because they were really happy to see me, and they knew who I was, and it took me a few minutes to recognize who they were, but it was sort of I don't know, it was like a really happy reunion. And they stayed with me, and actually they looked a lot like my dad, so I knew that my dad would be really proud of them. And I don't know, my heart just felt like I was bursting. You know, I was really, really happy to see my brothers.
So you could actually feel like the energy, or were you visually seeing them as well?
No, I visually saw them. And they were standing right next to me. One was a little taller than the other. And they were really very strong looking. They were all grown up. And when I think about it now, it makes me want to cry because they were babies when they died. Anyway, I'm just happy because I never got to meet him. But I played with when I was a little girl, and everybody thought he was my imaginary friend, but he wasn't. I could see him when I was a little teeny girl.
Right. Okay. Well, the thing is, again, is that, you know, that the little bit of time, as brief as it may have been, you know, everybody has their energy, you know, to them. And the thing is a lot of times I'll get when people tell their stories, and non-believers or whatever will say, you know, depending on their religious background, will say, you know, there are no human spirits, there are demons trying to, you know, trick you into believing that they're, you know, a family member or things like that. And there are incidences that it is like that. That, you know, a dark spirit will try to deceive you or make you feel more comfortable to interact with them if you feel that they are somebody that you, you know, a loved one that you lost. The thing that is so different is when somebody will have an interaction with a, you know, a past, someone that they love that passed on, they will know immediately. It's not even what they're seeing, as you said, because, you know, your brothers were babies when they passed, you know, and you didn't really have a relationship. But that connection, that energy, told you that is exactly who it was.
Exactly. And it was, I was so happy.
Absolutely. And again, you know, you can tell how raw and real those emotions are and how strong that energy can be on somebody, because even after all this time, just talking about it again, you know, that feeling brought, you know, to the brink of tears. And good tears. You know, I mean, it's always sad to talk about these things. But, again, you know, it's just like when we get, you know, confirmation from a loved one when they pass, and they come to you after they've passed away and give you some kind of sign, rather it be in your dream, them coming to you in your dreams, because some people, you know, do have quite, you know, a big block when it comes, you know, to being able to interact and stuff, or get messages from family members. And for most people who have psychic abilities, they aren't able to connect with their own family members. So a lot of times they'll have to, you know, get another psychic to be able to help them. And for everybody, it's different. You know, everybody has different ways, different abilities, different ways to utilize them, how they connect, how they get their information. And there's just such a a big umbrella that people put, somebody that they say, oh, they've got psychic abilities, right away they, think that, you can do everything. They have really no clue. But as I said, doing this over time, the energy that, people put out, especially when it's a loved one or somebody you were very, very close to and have that strong emotional but also physical attachment and connection with. So you without a shadow of a doubt, like that's who you're interacting with. And I think it's beautiful, and we really, before somebody passes, it has always been my experience when I've done readings for people that, they'll beat themselves up because they weren't there when their loved one took their last breath, or they may financially not have been able to make it because they lived in a, far away or in another state or just whatever. And so they really beat themselves up about that. But the beautiful, thing that I learned, with my near-death experience is that when, somebody passes away, the human side of them, with their emotional, we feel that, when we pass, that your worth as a person is basically weighed by when you die, how many people are at your funeral, or, how many people were there by your bedside. And I think it's so wrong for people to worry about this stuff. Because I will tell you, when I had a near-death experience, the last thing I cared about was if somebody was there or not. It's great, makes you feel good, but, none of those kind of things are important when somebody crosses over. And with all of the readings that I've done, the family members that they've wanted to interact with, and I don't think there's been once where they have not tried to communicate and let the person knowing that's grieving to know that they're there. Because they come back and they give us these signs, but we're, in such a state of grief and so, saddened that we don't pay attention to the signs.
Right.
So we'll say, oh, Mom, or oh, Dad, or whoever it may be, I just wish you could, be here, let me know you're here, let me know you're okay. And then they try to give you a sign, and people, don't even see it. And so they struggle with all this, but they always let us, try to get interact and connect with us, let us know that they're, okay. Now, with the first time you get hit with lightning, what type of lightning was that again? The ball lightning or the lightning bolt?
The first time was ball lightning. Okay, the first 2 times was ball lightning.
Okay, so now after those 2, did you find that you hadn't, your abilities or anything had activated or were heightened in any way, or was it not until the lightning bolt strike?
I'm trying to think. No, actually, this time, the 2005 this was the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The 2005 was the first time.
Okay.
And then it was the ball lightning, and then there wasn't, the last time was a strike. So this actually started the
So like where you were seeing the spirits and things like that.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I pick up about you is that like you've had a lot of things that have, paranormal, or
oh yeah.
things that's happened throughout your life. That's the main thing that, I get. So although, you're saying, okay, that not until after your near-death experience did you able to, then to see them. And I think you've always had the abilities. Again, I think that you just kind of the will to want to be normal like everybody else, or what they consider normal. It made you be very much in denial. So, like, I literally see, like, things happening around you, and then you finding an alternative answer of like, what happened. Like, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure, because, you know, what I'm picking up and what you were kind of, like, saying weren't really, like, for me matching.
Right. Yeah, you're right, yeah.
What do you know? Let's be a psychic. Like, that's not really on your Facebook page anywhere or something, right? Because there are people out there that say that, you know, when I talk to people or I get information that I must have went and, you know, like, researched their Facebook page or something and found that listed somewhere.
That's not listed on my Facebook.
Okay, just, you know, just letting people know, like, this isn't a conspiracy. Like, before the show, I didn't, like, absolutely let everybody know.
It's absolutely not. You can go on the page and read it. It's not listed anywhere.
Great. Well, good. That, for me, just gives me more, you know, more validation of what I am picking up is on the right path. I do feel like, again, as I said, that many things have happened to you over the years, and I see, like, literally back to, you know, a child interacting with spirit, interacting with them on a pretty regular basis. But as you get older, you know, really kind of hushing up about it and not talking about it to the point where I'm not going to say that it stopped everything, but that you weren't as sensitive to it.
Well, there was a period of my life where I just, like, okay, everybody go away. Leave me alone.
Okay.
When I was raising my children and that kind of thing, it was like, yeah, this is, you know, raising my children was very sacred to me. And it was like, you all go away.
Right.
I'm going to go to church, and I'm going to raise my children, and I'm going to do this, and you're staying away from me, and I don't care. Go away. And you're right. And then I had the, and when I was a little girl, I thought that angels lived in my closet. And my little brother came to me all the time, and I never, you know, I let people think that he was my imaginary friend because I didn't want to make my mom sad. And I just, you know, yes, you're right.
Well, I think you kind of felt like something was wrong with you, and that really also that by opening up, I feel a very, like, motherly sense to you, and I almost feel like, you know, you didn't really want, you know, like when they'll say, like, you'll talk something up, like, that you would, if you were, like, telling people about this, that something may then happen to your family or your siblings, which I feel is, like, very, very bothersome to you. Because you kind of wanted to be that protector, like, well, if I have to deal with it, then I have to deal with it, but I don't want anybody else to have to deal with it. And I also feel it's kind of what you went through with when you had your children. Like, you know, it was hard enough for you having to deal with that, but the last thing you want is for your kids to have to deal with that.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, it, again, is something that we are all born with. So even though we don't want our children to interact, you know, or have these same abilities or deal with these things, normally they do end up, you know, dealing with it, and they repeat the cycle of keeping it quiet because they don't want to upset their parent or the people around them. So it kind of, like, backfires, because then, you know, again, somebody has a near-death experience, even if they've kind of found a way to contain and control the abilities. Once you have that near-death experience, like, all bets off. Like, they're back, and usually from that point on, there is no shutting them down, period. Has that been what you found as well?
Yes. However, what I did was I put boundaries up, and I said, if you're going to do this, then you're going to do it my way, and you're going to do it within these limits, and you're not going to show me anything gross or ugly. I'm not going to, I'm not seeing heads roll, or I'm not seeing body parts falling off, and I'm not seeing disgusting things that are going to traumatize me any more than I already am. And if you have any messages you want to give to someone, then you're going to do it in a way that I can understand, and you're going to, I need silence in this physical world, and I need to sleep. You're not going to wake me up in the middle of the night by banging on walls or pulling sheets off my bed, and you're not going to hurt me or anybody that I love, and you're going to do it. Be respectful, and in turn I will be respectful, and I will listen to you, and I will help you in any way that I can, and we're going to do this in a loving way, and you're not going to, scare me or scare my family or, whatever. And, I did put boundaries down, and so far most of the spirits or whoever has been respectful. There have been a few that have not, and those I have sent into, God's hands. And let him deal with them according to his will, and let that be that. And that's how I deal with it.
That's actually good, because obviously there is no way that it is going where you can, shut this stuff down. It's always going to be there. It always has been with us. But, like you said, there are ways, and the best way to do it is learn to control them and take back the power that, you give away, and then from there put boundaries. And, again, especially with human spirits, a lot of times they'll, stick around and they take a liking to you, or, not ready to go, whatever it may be. And exactly, sometimes people will say, okay, as long as you're not causing me any issues, you're welcome to stay as long as you want, but if you start causing me issues, then we're going to, make arrangements to have you go somewhere else. Rather that be, cross them over or, get rid of them from your home, whatever it may be. I think that for many people who have abilities, they are somewhat drawn to the paranormal field of being investigators and researchers, because I always say it's like a personal journey for them. And, once we are aware, we accept our abilities, a lot of times we're like, okay, well, now I know what they're all, how it explains it, but what am I supposed to do with them? And it's something that I, talked about beforehand. But usually, once a person has a near-death experience, they come back with all of this being very clear to them of what they're supposed to be doing, things like that. And as you said, that's how it was for you as well, right?
Well, yeah. It's clear in that I know that I can't take any of the glory. The glory goes to God, and I know that. Mm-hmm. Any gifts that I may have come from Him. They're not mine, and I can't. Anything that He has shown me or taught me, it comes from Him, and I have to give Him the glory. And if He sends a spirit to me, then it's by His will, and I'm only here because He wants me here, and to do His will, and that's all I know. And I'm helping, and
the lightning, the second 2 times. Like, what were those near-death experiences like? Now, did you, each time you were struck by lightning, did you have a near-death experience, or was it just on one of them that you can remember, or how did that work?
Just the one in 2005.
Okay. Now, when you were struck then, were you able to see everything? Were you able to see them working on you? Were you, did you go through, have the tunnel experience? Like, people talk to you? Like, what was your experience exactly like for you?
I just went through the clouds. Then at the end of the clouds, my 2 brothers were there, and then they walked me into a beautiful garden. And in the garden, there were birds and flowers and the most beautiful colors I've ever seen. I mean, nothing here on this planet could ever compare to what I saw there. And I had a life review, and in the life review, it was like looking at a black and white, old-fashioned movie reel, and I saw everything that I had ever said or done in my entire life. There was no feeling of judgment at all. And at that point, I learned that God doesn't judge us; we judge ourselves. It was all I felt was love. There was no feeling of anything holding me bound at all. And at that point, I heard a male voice say, "What you put into the universe will come back to you." And then as I was standing in the garden, I noticed the brilliance of the colors and the trees and the grass, and I noticed the reds were very red, and the pinks were very pink, and the yellows were very yellow. And I could smell the sweet fragrance and the clean air. The air was so clean, nothing like it is here. And I noticed the sky was blue, and there was light like the sun, but there was no sun. And I heard a stream. There was water, but and it was like the sun was glistening on the stream, and it looked like diamonds. But again, there was no sun. The light was coming from God, not the sun. And I heard music, but what was funny was the music was coming from, like, a blade of grass had its own sound, and the rocks that the water was flowing over had their own sound, and the water had its own sound, and the trees had their own sound, and everything had its own sound or its own pitch. And all of these different pitches or sounds coming from all the different, things around, that's what was creating the music that I was hearing. And it was creating a symphony sound. It was gorgeous. It was like more beautiful than any symphony you ever hear on this planet. And it was amazing. Then after that, I was getting what I called an IV bottle of knowledge. All this knowledge was coming to me. It was like instant knowledge about so many things. I was being flooded with all this knowledge of stuff that I didn't even know how to formulate questions to ask. All this knowledge that was coming to me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?" Oh my gosh, it was like aha moment, one aha moment after another. And I kept thinking, is that all there is to it? That's so cool. It's like we're human beings make everything so complicated, and God is so simple. And it was like, that is so awesome. That is so cool. I kept walking around with my mouth hanging open going, oh my gosh, Wow.
That is, well, we're coming up right at the top of the hour, so we, at this point, are going to take a short commercial break so that we can get the information out for our sponsors and give our guests a chance to get something to drink or just take a deep breath and have a few moments for preparing for our next hour of the show. So we'll be taking a break, and we will be back shortly. Everybody stick around. Still got lots to talk about. So we'll be right back.
All I can see is yesterdays. It's so easy never to forget. Believing lies and reservations pushed us far apart. Am I alone? Am I alone? Every day finishing another dimmed piece of my own. 4 years to keep coming back to me. Never thought we could lose so much. Wanting more when nothing changes. That held us far apart. Am I alone? Am I alone? Every day furnishing another dimmed piece of my heart. Dreaming of whispering heavens and mirrors of someone else's reflections ascending through another downward view. Am I alone? Am I alone? Do you hear what I'm calling out to you tonight? Am I alone? Am I alone? Every day furnishing another dimmed piece of my heart. Am I face, sprinting in forever kind of race. And it's like losing before you get to finish, where you can only close your eyes and maybe wish you can get there before you become one of the restless that gives in. So up and down, welcome the good and bad, 'cause that's where the real lessons hide. I know this could be the last time I could see you the way I always imagine. Every dream leaves me your promises, leaving me once again, waking up backwards in a different kind of real.
Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you for joining us for the second hour of Paranormal Connections. I'm Christina George. I'm your host for the evening, as usual, and tonight with my guest, Sharon Milliman, and we have been talking about near-death experiences. So many people over the years that I've interviewed have had near-death experiences. So many people would talk about having near-death experiences, and they were not believed, things like that. For those that have been following my show for a very, very long time, or know me personally, obviously, or heard my interviews, you've probably heard my near-death experience story multiple times. But for those who haven't, I at this point go ahead and share mine. So I was actually in a severe car accident over 12 years ago. And what had happened was I get to the hospital and we find out that a lot of it was kind of kind of in a haze, but what they told me was, I remember they said that I had been in an accident, that I was okay, I was going to need surgery, that I had ruptured my spleen, and they were going to go in and do surgery to try to repair it. If not, they'd have to remove it. And so I remember I was talking to them, they rushed me into the operating room, they put the mask over my face. I remember they gave me some medication. They were talking, and I started to panic for some reason. And, I just didn't know what was going on. And I remember they just kept saying, just relax. And I was so afraid that they were going to do the surgery and I was not going to be knocked out. And every time that they started to clean my abdomen area, cut me for surgery. And I remember I kept screaming, I'm still awake. Because I thought they were going to, start cutting on me. And it obviously weren't. They were like, no, we're just getting you all prepared, just need to relax and take some deep breaths. And, next thing you know, it's not working. And all of a sudden, I realized that at this point, I am no longer slave or fighting them. I am really looking at at the point I just saw a person being operated by a whole bunch of people, doctors and stuff around them. Right away, I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Is this a near-death experience? And mind you, being in this field, and I have done a lot of research and, talked to a lot of people that have had near-death experiences. So I'm thinking this can't be. So I remember looking around to try to look around these people to see the face of the person that they're operating on. And I look, and sure as heck, it's me. So at that point, I kind of got anxious, and I remember I started looking around. People are never going to believe this. So I was looking at the time on the clock. I was looking at the monitors with all my vitals. I was listening to what the doctors were saying back and forth to each other, remembering names of the doctors and just all kinds of stuff. And then one of the other things that I looked at was I remembered an article a long time ago that had talked about, they were putting, more research and about near-death experiences, and that in many of the hospital operating rooms, they were taking and, with big vinyl letters, they were putting stuff on the top of the big examination right in the surgery room, and they would, write something out, a word, in this, big vinyl letters, so that if somebody, stated that they were having an out-of-body experience, near-death experience, and that they were floating above their body, the doctors were saying, any person would be able to see this, and that would validate that they actually, this was true. So I look up above the lights, and there's nothing. So I'm like, okay, well, so I look at the rest of the stuff, and no quicker do I do all of this. And a very, very quick time, passes by with all of this. The next thing I know, I go from being above my body, watching them, work on me, to next thing I know, I'm like instantaneously, I pop into this other area. Excuse me. It is not a tunnel. I would say, many people have different descriptions. I know that all that I experienced was all of a sudden there was this light that is just so engulfing. It was just pure, like this brightest, bright white light you could ever even imagine. And it was, I want to say it was in a room, but there was no floor, there was no ceiling, no walls, no nothing. And in the background, further back, I could see a bunch of people. One of them was a boyfriend of mine who had died. And then there was my grandfather, who as well had passed away. It was actually the first family member that, I knew and was very attached to that had passed away. And he is the first and only family member that had ever showed themselves to me. So I see the two of them, and right away I'm just ecstatic. And, I want to go and see them, but they're so far away, and I'm not being able to, go there. And next thing I know, I start being spoken to by this man, a man's voice. And it was telling me that, it was not my time, and that I was going to need to go back. And for whatever reason, that upset me. And I was like, what do you mean? It's not my time and I've got to go back. No. I'm here, I'm staying. And for whatever reason, argumentative me, I felt like I really had to say so in all of this. So I sat there and argued for, a minute and tried to plead my case, and it wasn't happening. One of the things that I did realize, as I said earlier, was that there was such a feeling of, peace, and so it was such a good feeling that I was experiencing that I did not want to leave. Now, mind you, at the time of this, I had 4 young children. And, my children are my life. Even the thought of leaving and leaving my children behind without a mother, and with my feelings, how they are, that would be my worst nightmare. But the fact that, this was happening during my near-death experience, I had none of those feelings. I didn't even think about my children, which even up to this point does bother me at times that, that wasn't what was in the forefront of my mind. Not that I didn't care about my children or anything, because now that I've, shared and spoken to so many other people who've gone through the same thing, many people experience that as well. It's a very human feeling, and so when you're on the other side, all of that stuff is not the same way. So I ended up, arguing for a minute, and, this man says, no, you're going back, and these are the things that, you need to do. And I was telling you, when you were talking about, almost being downloaded, that is one of the ways I've explained my experience for many years now, was that I felt like I was being downloaded, and just, all of this information that to me made no sense whatsoever. It was just like information overload. And the next thing I know, I'm starting, they're like, you got to go back. And one of the main things that they stressed was that when I came back, I was no longer supposed to hide my abilities. That not only was I supposed to come forward about my abilities and stand strong, but that I was supposed to take what I had been, the information I had been given and all the information I had learned over the years, and take that and use it to help other people and to help educate them. So next thing I know, I'm like, no, I'm not going back. And at that point, like, I remember, actually, like, looking at my grandfather and my ex-boyfriend, like seriously? Like, are you not going to help me? Or, like, and I was putting my hand out, and say, like, help me. Like, I don't want to go. And, they just looked and smiled at me. And the next thing I know, I was literally yanked back. Now, not pulled back, but I mean yanked back to the point that, like, if somebody would have had, like, a rope around my waist, and then all of a sudden they just yank you as hard as they could, like how your feet would fly out in front of you and your hands, like, that's how forcefully I was pulled backwards. And I was pulled backwards, and although it pulled me backwards, I could still see everybody. Now, mind you, like I said, with my grandfather, my ex-boyfriend who was killed, there were multiple other people that were in this group. Some later on, once all this had happened, I actually was able to validate a few of the people who were family members by going through pictures with both my grandmothers on both sides of the family, and they were able to, I pointed out to people, they were able to tell me, family members that they were, and then there's still people that still to this day I have no idea who they were. We ended up, they were kind of far away, and then I get pulled the second time. Now, the second time I get pulled, I literally get sucked backwards out from all of the light, and now I am back above my body in the operating room. And at this point, I look down, and they're feverishly working on me, and they've got the paddles to shock you when your heart stops. And you can hear the alarm on the machine, and they were saying that I still had no heartbeat, so they charged it up. The doctor, said to charge it up, again, and they said, we'll try one more time, turn it up, let's go, they count, clear, they shock me, and when they shock me this time, I literally and I'm back in my body. And I don't remember anything until I wake up in the recovery room afterwards. Now, to this day, my opinion is what had happened is that, my heart stopped when they shocked me. That was when I got yanked back the first time. And the second time that they shocked me, obviously that brought me into the back into the operating room, and then the third one brought me back into my body. When I woke up, I did right away start, telling the recovery room nurse what had happened to me. I remember the nurse coming and in a code, it's funny now that I look at it, that I was, rattling off all the stuff that had happened, and, that I died, and they told me that it wasn't my time, I had to come back, and, the nurse put her hand on my shoulder, and she said, oh, honey, it's okay. It's all a dream. Just go back to sleep. You had surgery. You're okay. And everything went well. They told me that they did not have to move my spine. They were able to repair it, that I did great, and that the doctor would be by later to talk to me. So I ended up going, I tried to tell a few more people, and, again, they were telling me it was the anesthesia and, all these different reasons why I was going through, except for the fact that I could have possibly had a near-death experience, but I just shut up. And later when the doctors, when I was in the ICU and they make their rounds, one of the doctors that came in and actually so he asked if he could ask me some questions. He did. One of them was, did I remember what had happened when I woke up from surgery? And I was like, yeah, I absolutely know what, I said. And he said, well, can you, tell me the story, and I was like, well, sure, you're not going to believe me. Like, everybody shut me down and said it didn't, wasn't happening, it was anesthesia, all these things. And they said, well, I do want to listen to you. So I told them everything, and all of a sudden I said, it's not like I'm doing, like, I have done research and things like that, and I said I even, looked to try to find anything that could verify that, I was experiencing all this, and I gave them, names of the doctors and nurses that I was hearing them, call out during the time, and he was able to verify all that. And when I said that the only other thing I was hoping for is to be able to see what would be on top of the big spotlight so I could, have something definitive. And he actually told me that they actually do that. The thing is that, they had, I forget how many operating rooms they had, but they had it in one or only one or two or something. And I happened to be in one that didn't have it. But he actually listened to it, and actually was doing some kind of lecture there at the university, and asked if, they could use my cases, a teaching case, and they said yes, and then they actually even brought around a group of doctors to talk to me about my experience. But I would tell you, before I had this near-death experience, I've always been able to, see, hear, and communicate with, spirits, human spirits. The difference when I came back, like, things were so much stronger. Like, I was a very, very super, super strong empath. My intuitive skills were through the roof. I was actually having a lot of premonitions and visions that were coming true, and they were not good ones. I was also being able to foretell when, people were going to, pass. All kinds of things, and definitely not what I wanted. I had fought so hard to try to shut down my abilities that the last thing I wanted was for them to be back and, be enhanced, 100-fold. And since before the last time that I had really utilized my abilities had been when I was a teenager and ended up with a demonic attachment after dabbling with a Ouija board and trying to convince some people that I actually did have these abilities. Being naive, I ended up getting the attachment, and eventually I tried everything, but found a incantation to basically bind your abilities. So I did that, and it seemed to work, at least for a while. I knew that a few years later I did start noticing that my abilities were coming back. I was witnessing and seeing spirits that were, coming to me, needing help, different things like that. But I wasn't seeing anything dark, so, I was like, okay, that'll be good. But, of course, when I had the near-death experience and it came back, that was my biggest fear. And I did not see the attachment. I did not, experience anything like that. So from that point on, I got into the paranormal publicly. I had been doing it, kind of on the under for a very long time. But I actually came out publicly as a psychic because I hated that title. But I did finally come out. Talked about this. Started my group, then later on started my radio shows, and have been, helping people, mentoring, children and people with abilities so that, there won't be people out there that have to suffer the way I did or other people had, to not understanding what was going on with them, making them feel alone. So many people that have abilities are misdiagnosed, undiagnosed. They will be diagnosed with mental disorders. A lot of them could be schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. Just the list goes on and on. So it has been my passion and really my goal from that point forward to really get out there, help educate people, help people in need, whether it be to teach them to learn to live with their abilities and control them better, all the way to, helping people, get rid of paranormal, activity that is disturbing, the happiness in their household. So it's very interesting when people, talk about their near-death experiences, because in all the stories there are usually some parts that are similar, especially with the increase in their abilities or the activation of their, honestly, reactivation of the abilities that have always been there. Now, when you went through your near-death experience, you said, like with me, it was very life-changing for you. What's the most drastic, or where do you think that it's changed you the most going through the near-death experience?
Wow. In every way. Yeah, it really has. In every way. My whole life has changed.
Would you say in a positive way?
Oh, yeah.
But it seems like a trick question sometimes, huh? Because for most, although it is a blessing to be able to have these abilities and be able to help people, it really does, for most people, seem like it's either a curse or a double-edged sword. So, as much as you're able to help or help other people, do you notice that, it's harder for you to help yourself or to take some of the same advice you may give to other people?
I can help other people. It's very difficult to help myself. I find it very difficult to there are after effects that are lifelong, and I've had to read that paper that what is her name? P.J. Atwater, I think her name is. That the doctor that has done study on near-death experience, and that sometimes up to 20 years afterwards, she wrote that the after effects can take place in a person's life. And it fits me to a T. The different stages and phases of your life and how it changes you, your outlook in life and I don't know.
That's very true. I'm looking in our chat, and we actually have some questions that I didn't see earlier, so I'll try to get some of those addressed. So the first one that I saw was guest 245 in chat. Says, if anyone has... Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't the question. Guest 245, how do you ascend a spirit if they don't want to go? I will tell you that if a spirit does not want to cross over, they're not going to go. They will make any mind, like, you tell them they have to go, things like that, they are not going to go. That is one thing that is very interesting. So we need to usually find out what the reason is of why they are staying. Many times is that, again, they'll have a family member that is, just having a very, very hard time coping with their death, and so they want to stay there to, be supportive. A lot of times, I'll see mothers that happens with, that they don't want to leave their child behind and they're just mourning so much. Other times, it's unfinished business. So rather it be a message that needs to be given or something needs to be done that they, just wanted done before, they pass, things like that. You can do that. It really is just trying to communicate. If you can communicate with them, it's great, because a lot of times you can get that information, you can make it happen, and then they're happy, to go. You do find a lot of times spirits that are stuck and didn't cross over, and they don't even realize they're dead. They still believe they're among the living. They're not sure what's going on, and so they have to come to grips in the reality and that they have passed, and then we can help to show them the door to cross through and to cross, go into the light, things like that. Sometimes people won't cross over because of the fear, depending on their religious background. If say they're Catholic and they sinned and they didn't get a chance to do confession or get last rites before they died, they sometimes are afraid that they're going to go into that light and it's going to, check them down into hell. So they're not sure, so they won't go to it. There's just so many different reasons. So you can't force them, again, just because you tell them you got to go does not mean you have to go. You can do a cleansing of the house and, remove them from that home. But, the thing is that why would you want, to do that? If you're going, if you're going to, if you're there not only to help the client, but to help the spirit as well, you want to make sure that they're going to be crossed over and they're going to be able to be helped. So for me, that's what I really, really, focus on. Let me see. I thought that there was a couple other ones that I'm trying to find. Just to clarify, the game says, are you ever the same after a near-death experience? I mean, once that switch is triggered, will it ever reset? My experiences is once you have that near-death experience and that switch is flipped, again, it's never going off. I mean, is that your experience as well, Sharon?
No, you're never the same.
Right, yeah, and I mean, of course, if people could, shut this off, then many people probably would. And I do think that it is a way, of God kind of, forcing us to accept this, and do what we're supposed to be doing. And there's so much negativity, there's so much, just bad stuff going on out there, in the world. I mean, even now with the paranormal, everybody wants to, brag about what they're doing. Everybody thinks they're the best. They're better than somebody else. There's so much greed and ego and stuff, put into this. It gets, crazy at times. It's very hard sometimes to, for people to stay grounded, not allow the outside negativity to affect them, things like that. But anybody that has had a near-death experience, I think one of the main things is that it's the consensus with all of us is that you're never the same after that. I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it definitely is something that changes you. That I would say for sure. Let's see, what else we got?
I think it's good to stay humble.
Very, very much so, I think. I mean, it's just as well like with, my abilities. There are many people out there that do charge for readings. Mm-hmm. Me, myself, I've never charged anybody. I never will. I've been offered, many times, and I've done readings for people. They've offered to give me a donation or anything. I never take anything. And the reason, that I go that way, number one, is that, any gift that we are blessed with, I do not feel is supposed to be used for personal gain.
I agree with you.
I think that we are supposed to use, these abilities to help others, not try to feel that we're better than others. So for me, it truly is all about helping other people. And that opens you up to so much anyway, because being a psychic, when somebody wants a reading, and on top of it, it's a free reading, oh yeah, the sharks come out, and not only will somebody want, you to answer them a question, they usually have about 100 of them, then they all of a sudden they're, calling you every single day, and you have, they have to call you before every move they make, and, they want you to be their own, personal spiritual advisor, and that, again, is not what I'm here for either. I'm here for very specific things, to help people in very specific ways, to help educate them. My focus, my main focus is truly helping children and teenagers with abilities, because that's where I connect the strongest with how much growing up with, paranormal activity around you and not understanding what it is you're experiencing or why you, it can cause so many, issues, with depression, things that adults are going through, and adults can't even handle it, but yet we expect that, the children can take it. And, bullying has gone to, such another level that it's important that, these children not feel like outcasts, not feel that, they are some freak of nature, or they need to be embarrassed of the abilities that they have. So I really focus on them to teach them, what's going on around them, what abilities they have, how they can, best protect themselves, how they can, learn to, not only embrace but control their abilities to a much stronger degree, and how they can use those abilities to then in turn help other people. And, I really think that that's the importance. They are the next generation. They, we're now going through a generation, where there are many more believers. And, kids their minds are open to so many more things than older people that have just heard the same crap for so many years and drilled it into our brains that we believe it must just be true, and we're going to pass that then on to, our children. But this next generation, not only are they smart asses, but they're definitely smarter than, so many of the parents and people before them because of technology. So although there is so much information out there now for people to find and research, unlike there was, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, there is also so much information available to them, so many conflicting types of shows and information that although we've made, leaps and bounds in bringing the attention and to the paranormal, and that the belief and evidence to show that this, truly does exist, this activity does exist. There are people, like myself, and you can interact with the spirits, etc. And, so it's, I think, very important that us as adults, we share these stories, experiences that we've had for adults that have children who are speaking about, people in their closets or under their beds, or people that talk to them, things like that. They're quote-unquote imaginary friends. This is where we need to educate the adults to not push that under the rug and not tell your children it doesn't exist. This is our window of really turning things. in a positive, way of how we deal with paranormal phenomena. So, again, I think having, you on as well as, all of the different guests I have had on over the years, that's what people, want to experience. They want to hear these, true life stories that have happened to people so that other listeners can connect with them. And they're like, wow, I'm not crazy. There's nothing that is a better feeling than to find somebody who feels alone and, they don't have a support system because all of the people around them, don't believe in paranormal activity, things like that, and then bring them into a group like P.P.R.S, and they come in and they are immediately welcomed and embraced, and they want to, share and hear the story and support you and, things like that. And I think that is, a great help. I mean, how was it for you when you first joined up in P.P.R.S?
Well, everybody was very welcoming and very warm, and it was very, very wonderful.
I just find that there's so many, groups out there now, and, they say that they're for education and educating people and helping people, and then I go into these groups and I will see somebody who maybe posts, in a matrix scene on a picture or a dust orb, or something like that, and it's not because they're trying to scare anybody or put a fake picture out. It's just that they're new to the field and they think they caught something and they don't realize. And I will see people literally being torn to shreds in groups. And these are groups that are supposedly, there for, unity. And it makes me shake my head and just think, what the hell is going on with our field? Because that's not what it's supposed to be about. So in my group, we've always, our motto has been, about para-unity. I know that there are many people who say that it doesn't exist, it can't exist, and I beg to differ. And I'm not going to lose hope in that, because although there are so many that can't get along, and so many that, do cause a lot of drama, all of these kind of things, but we can't allow, those bad apples to affect the field in a whole. And if we start, worrying so much about, if somebody's, picture is legit or not, that's taking away from time that we can be focusing on helping people who are really in need or help people that need guidance, stuff like that. So, and my group is absolutely, we don't tolerate any kind of negativity, no bashing. I am all open for, healthy debates because, I think that is healthy, for people, if they believe in something, to, be able to put that information out and stand, behind it. But there's a difference between a healthy debate and just, harassing and trashing somebody. So I'm glad that you've, had a good experience at P.P.R.S. because that truly is what we strive to do there. And in fact, that's how I, found you about the topic of near-death experiences, because of one of the posts in the group about that, and I had been wanting to do a show on near-death experiences, and, just happened that it all happened right at the right time, and I'm all about signs, so. I like to say, too, we've had so many people interacting here. Let me see. So Twister Kid said, when we had the near-death experience, do you feel like you are now a beacon to spirits? What are your feeling on that?
Yes, I feel like I have a flashing blue sign across my forehead that says it. Come to Sharon.
Oh, that's so funny. That is it. That is so true. So, Sister Kid, so basically, yes, once activated, you are absolutely a beacon to the other side. And I always say this, but what was always funny to me is I was always able to, see, hear, and communicate with spirits. And I always wondered why, people would say that, I can see and hear and communicate with spirits, and then they would have to use, a spirit guide in order to connect. And it never really, to me, made any sense because, if you can see them, you can hear them, and you can communicate with them, why would you need a third person to, that's like, me having you as a guest, and then I call somebody else to ask you all the questions on the line with us, but I was like, I don't understand why people aren't asking more questions of the spirit, other than when did you die, things like normal questions. I wanted to know, how do you find me? And of all the people, how do you find me? And, why do you keep coming to me? And, things like that. And how do you know that I have abilities? And how do you know that the person next to me, they might have the abilities? How do you know it's me? And the information that I received back from Spirit was that they do communicate among each other. And that people and I believe that this is our auras, but what they say is that we've got this glow about us. And the stronger our abilities are, the stronger the glow. Okay? So when you're really strong, say like myself, you're at this big, lighthouse with a neon sign, on it saying open for business. I can see you need help, come find me. So that's what they do to you. The problem is that they as well, they can see the glow that you have and how strong it is, but they don't know, that can mean you're very strong sensitive. Or, you can be a strong intuitive, or you might be an empath. So although they may say if you're an empath and you can pick up on the emotions of the spirit, you're not going to be able to see what they look like, and you're not going to be able to hear what they're telling you. So a lot of times there's a lot of frustration because there will be spirits that are looking for help, and they're trying to ask you questions or get help, and you're ignoring them, what they think, but it's not that you're ignoring them, it's just that your ability, is not one to be able to, either visually see them or audibly hear them. So a lot of times, people will misconstrue, say they get, they feel something around, they sense something in their home, and it's wanting to interact, but they don't know what it is, they can't hear them, they can't see them, so they don't know what's going on, they just sense them, they're around. And there'll be little small things, and then all of a sudden, it's like something will go flying off of the bookshelf, or off of, something will fall, a mirror, picture will fall off of the wall and crash and break. Right away, people's minds then switch. Now it's not just a ghost, now it's demonic. And it's a demon that's after them and their whole families, and it's going to kill them and the whole 9 yards. And it sometimes is kind of funny at times, and not for the client, but, I'll go in there, and or my team will go, and, we'll encounter, say an elderly person who maybe died there, or is linked to something that's in the house, or whatever the thing may be. And, you're looking at, okay, now this obviously, this old woman can't, isn't some demonic, thing trying to get them. And, you ask the client, well, what makes you think that, this is demonic? And I tell you, it never fails. They'll say, well, we watched a lot of these ghost hunting shows, and, there's that guy, and, when things like this happen, it's demonic. So then when we tell it, I'm able to interact with the spirit, tell them who the spirit is, what's going on, why they're there, and the reason for, something happening or whatever, you would see the change in their face, a release. And like, these are the kind of things that bother me about the stuff that is the misinformation that is put out there, because people really don't get it. So although, we are a beacon, again, not everybody can understand what the Spirit's, saying, so a lot of times it's just them trying to get our attention. And a lot of times what they are really focusing, because it actually takes quite a bit of energy for a spirit to move things or things like that. And a lot of times what will happen is the electronics and things like that around them, they can kind of feed off of that. If you're sad or scared, they can feed off of the energy of that. But, it takes a lot of energy for them to be able to, throw something off, a shelf or things like that. But normally, what they do is just concentrate, super, super hard, and they just, focus all that energy and kind of really bombard it. And sometimes, they'll be just trying to move something a little bit, and it'll go flying off the wall, and they kind of impress themselves. But, now it's still the person that they're trying to interact with, and so it's hard. So just to, for people asking, imagine yourself, that you go to sleep one night, and the next day you wake up, and everything seems okay. Everything looks normal, and you go and you try to, go and see your family, and you find them all sad and crying. You're trying to talk to your spouse, and they don't hear you. You try to give your child a hug and can't. All these different things, and you have no idea where you're at, what's going on, why they can't, see or hear or feel your touch, and what are you supposed to do? So, that's why whenever I'm dealing with, spirits, it's always about respect. Always. There's no need to yell and scream, curse, provoke, anything. If a spirit wants to speak with you, he will. It has nothing, if you provoke somebody, it's going to, piss them off to the point that they'll, react. But if you're provoking and you come up against something that's dark, you might get something in return that you're definitely, not looking for or not wanting. So it's kind of, like I said, there's so much more to all of this that people need to understand. And then, it seems like once you understand it, it starts to remove that fear. And if you, Sharon, did you realize that once you started educating yourself about not only the paranormal but your abilities, different things about what's going on, did that seem to curb the anxiety and fear of the unknown and not knowing what's going on?
Yeah, it did. I still, after all these years, it still surprises me. It's still, I'm not used to it. Mm-hmm. They appear, and it's like, okay. Yeah.
It's kind of disturbing sometimes, too, right? I mean, especially when 1 second nobody's there, and the next, it's like, boom, there they are. It can scare the crap out of you, take you by surprise, whatever. And then do you have it where, you're, I don't know how to always get this, politically correct.
When I get it right, when they give me what I call evidential information,
mm-hmm.
And it's like when I'm talking to whoever it is they want me to give the message to, right? And I get it right. It's like, are you serious? I just got that right. Oh my gosh! Oh, that's awesome! Right? Even after all these years, I'm just like, oh, thank you.
Right.
Well, I don't have faith in myself. I don't know.
Absolutely. That's really all that it is. Is just understand, because the thing is that people lack that confidence because they're so worried about getting it right, and so afraid of what's going to happen if they get it wrong. And what I try to, remind people, especially people with psychic abilities that are reading, doing readings and things, is that the reader as well as the person being read needs to understand is that the information that we get and we are given is not for us. So for us, it is never going to make any sense to us. So sometimes I find myself, giving information to people and, they're kind of like just looking at me like, I don't know whether they're saying, oh, what the heck, this is wrong or this is right. I will have to say my readings have been very, very, accurate, and I have had a couple, times where I've given people readings and they've been able to, validate everything but maybe one or two things. And, because they can't validate, those one or two things, then they, negate or think that, it can't be the real deal because otherwise I would have got everything right. And then, lo and behold, a couple weeks later, they'll contact me and, apologize because the thing that they said, has not happened will then happen. Because, again, the information we get is not for us, doesn't make any sense, and it's not always information on things that have already happened. A lot of times they're giving us information on things to come. And so until, that happens, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what it meant. But for people who, are trying to, strengthen their ability, especially for, reading and their self-confidence, it's really good for you, to do, get connected with people, like in my group, our new readers and things like that. I usually have them, read for a group member, and then I've got a list of them that volunteer to be read. And, even if they don't get it right, we then can work with them on wherever, they need to work on. But I will tell you, once you get enough, you start doing readings and you are spot on and you start trusting yourself and stop worrying about the information you're being given, just relay it. Once you start doing that, you start seeing how spot on you are. It kind of umps your confidence level, and then you just blossom from there. That's really truly how it goes. And then I've had some people that say, I've got psychic abilities and I can read a little bit, I'm just not any good at it. And, now, after time has passed, like, they're some of our best readers in the group. So I think that's, in time you're going to be right up there, too. But anyway, it looks like we've got about 2 minutes left. As I promised you, 2 hours went by. I hope it wasn't too painful for you.
No, thank you for having me. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you so much to everybody who was in chat tonight, as well as all of the listeners. It always just blows me away. We're looking at our numbers tonight. We're in the 63,000 live listeners mark. So thank you so much for making this show as popular as it has become. I hope not to ever disappoint you guys. Please make sure to keep in contact me. My email is paranormalinvestigator916@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook under Paranormal Investigator 916, or you can check out the Paranormal Connection page. We're on Facebook, as well as Para Connection under Twitter and Google+. So definitely check us out next week. Now, remember that we have a lot of holiday things coming up. If you have a special topic that you would like us to talk about, let us know. And before the end of the year, I will be having my annual prediction show. It's going to be one you don't want to miss. All right, everybody, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Sharon, for joining me as well. Your story is amazing. I hope that in the future, you'll be willing to come back and talk about it some more.
Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right, everybody. Good night, and thank you so much again for joining us. See you next week. Bye-bye.